Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and you're looking at a Penn Spinfisher 700. It's a piece of a pole with a reel on it that I purchased this past weekend from a garage sale. And some of you may or may not believe it, but it was only $5. I don't believe that the vendor had any idea what they were selling, but that's okay. This one's in rough condition. It's got a lot of paint missing. It's got a lot of dirt. It turns very rough, and when I purchased this, the bail was not working properly. So we're going to take it apart. We're going to see if it's nothing more than a parts reel or if it's something that can be returned to somewhat of its faded glory here. And in the process, I'll show you how these reels are made and why people like these reels so much. They really are a classic. They came about in the 70s, I believe. And just trying to work to get this off the pole. There you go, we get that off the pole. And this is the larger of the reels that they made. So it's the 700. It's sometimes referred to as a greenie, although a lot of the green paint is missing from this one. And we'll go through the routine of taking this apart, showing the mechanics behind it, lubricating it, see if we can get it working again. So again, it struggles. It's a little bit tight in the turning. There's a little chirp in that spool there. There's a lot of salt corrosion in that, but for the moment I'm just more or less interested in, can we make this work, or do I sell it as a parts reel downstream? So for $5 you can certainly make your money back on a parts reel. First thing I'm noticing is there's a lot of sand in this. That's never a good sign. I'm just going to wipe some of that off for the moment. And again, more importantly to me at this point is, what are the internal gearing like? And should I invest the time to clean this up and try and put it back to use? Yeah, you can probably see in here, there's an awful lot of sand, which, look, given the condition of that piece of rod, you always ask yourself, where did the rest of it go, right? When you see something like this, but you know, I think the grinding in the spool that I was hearing there is probably just this sand between the two, and that's probably why there's a lot of wear and taking the paint off on this side. So it was probably got dumped in the ocean at some point, and or laid on the beach or whatever it was. And again, let's get underneath this reel, see what we got. So on the Penn Spinfisher, it's got 3 side plate screws. We're going to go take those off. You'll notice I wear a protective glove on my left hand. I like to keep the contaminants of a reel, particularly one that I don't know about, off my hands. You never know what people are using for greases and the like inside. My guess is on this one, since it's turning so tight, they're probably not using any grease. Whatever grease was put in the factory all those years ago is probably the only thing that's in there at the moment. But we'll see. It only takes those 3 screws to normally pull this side cover plate off. There we go. And yeah, we have a quiet reel in there. We've got a lot of accumulation of dried grease here. Again, I'm just going to grab the paper towel and see if I can't get it off that way. And actually, it's so dried, I'm going to use a little screwdriver here. You can see just how it's coming up all congealed. So that's what's bogging this reel down, is there's just a lot of dried grease in it. But we'll take it apart, and I think that it's not ambitious to say that this one can get working again. Okay, from the handle sense, we just back the handle off. That's how your main gear is attached in there. And once you pull the side plate out, you can actually push the main gear through. There's a little collar that goes on that main gear that drives the crosswind shaft up and down. We're just going to push it out, and we're going to give this, I'm going to try and give this a good cleaning here. I usually don't like levering things, but there's just, there you go, it's just a little tight in there, so we got that out, and you can see that there's just a big accumulation of dried grease in here. So this is a testament to these reels. These reels were made so well, it's so hard to break these reels. So anybody who sees one, if it's being sold, generally speaking, they can be restored relatively easy. Most of the time, it's exactly what we're seeing here. It's just that the product has not been maintained properly, and the result of that has been that the reel underperforms the way it should. Okay, so this is the anti-reverse gear. It works on a little dog in here. This is the anti-reverse dog, and then the rest is just a brass collar. But you can see again, as I scrape, you see the change of color because of the dried grease on this one. So we're just going to get that out of the way so that this performs properly. And again, I'm using just a blade of a screwdriver. You could use any flat edge tool, essentially. I guess you could use your fingernails and other things. Again, I like to keep the junk off. And then I'm just going to hit it with a spray of WD-40 just to kind of loosen that up. We'll come back with a Q-tip to finalize that. And then we're going to take the transition piece off of the spool post so that I can pull the spool post but also clean behind there. And I'm going to take that off. It's a screw, and then the rest pulls up. This comes off, and again we can clean this piece. And you can see it's a fairly uncomplicated reel. It has a main gear. It has the probably called the jack. It's the transition piece between the main gear and the spool gear. And then we're going to pull the spool shaft off, and that's going to get us up top. While I'm at that, I just want to hit the pinion gear here with some oil as well. But you can tell the quality of the materials in here. If it's not stainless, it's something comparable. But to last all of these years with salt and sand in this one, and again, it's on the bottom of the shaft, we have the same problems. Here we have accumulated grease and sand. We're going to take those off. And I use paper towels, Q-tips, scrubby pads from the kitchen, things like this, all as cleaning agents that just help me to get that done easier. Now we're going to remove the spool. Okay, that just has one nut on it, doesn't have a stop screw to it. This has got, again, a lot of sand in here. I'll hit this one with WD-40 too. We'll see if we can't pull some of that off. And this is a shielded, a little bit of trouble with this, getting this off. Not surprising with all the sand. There we go. And again, we got a dish of sand here, right? So that's, all of this is contributing factors to the issues that are lagging this in performance. But I have no doubt when we turn this back on that we're going to run very well here. So let's get that sand out of there. And I hate sand. It's one of those things that there's no excuse for. When I'm out on the beach doing fishing myself personally, or if I'm walking around the beach just taking a stroll, I constantly am amazed by the amount of folks that drop their reels in the sand and just leave them there. Now, I get it. If you're fighting a fish and it's a tough fight and you're landing it, it might just be out of haste or rush or something that you wind up there with the reel winding up in there. But these people just, it's like they throw it in the sand and then go to lunch or something. Okay, all of that is congealed grease. That's what's bogging this reel down. So mechanically, the reel is fine. I took a chance on it for $5. I just found out that it's all about just dried grease, no maintenance. So, you know, I'm often asked, how frequently should you do maintenance on the reel? And the answer is always it varies, right? It varies on usage. But I always say at the end of the season, so that you're prepped for the beginning of the next season, is a good time to do it. But if you're a heavy user, I would say do it at the beginning of the season when you're getting ready to go. That way you have fresh grease and you get rid of the stuff. If you've been properly washing your reel and kind of coating it with WD-40 after the trips, you usually don't have to worry too much about the reel performance over time. And so I would say do it at the beginning of the year, do it about midpoint in the season if you're going out every week, if you're putting a lot of trips on the reel. do it about mid-season, and that's usually just light greasing at that point. There's usually not an accumulation of anything because you're keeping it clean. And then do it at the end of the season, just before you pack it away for the winter. So, but if you're a light user, beginning of the season, that should be fine. All right, so we took care of that. There's no sand inside, which is a good thing, because we could worry that the sand would act as a grading agent and wear the gears down. But in this case, these gears are more stronger than strong. Like I said, it's a testament to how they made these reels, and one of the reasons why everybody loves these reels so much. So what I'm doing now is I'm checking the teeth on the main gear. They're dirty, as you might imagine. We've had a lot of dried grease, so I'm using just a small wire brush to make sure that all of the teeth are cleaned up there. The main gear here, the pinion gear, same thing. Let's just work on that gear to get anything that might be stuck in the teeth. Then we're going to reinstall. So in reinstalling, you want to make sure that this is backed off. This is your anti-reverse dog. It needs to be backed off so that you can put that main gear in there. And this is how you see that it's engaged and disengaged. It needs to be over here on disengaged. Okay, once we do that, simply push that gear in and you're set. So now what we have to do is we have to lubricate. We're going to take the blue grease. In this case, I use a Penn blue grease. We're going to put a nice amount of blue grease on the main gear because the jack or the transition piece to the spool is going to ride on that, so we want to make sure that we have that well lubricated. And then we're going to put some on the back here, on the pinion gear. That's all you need. Now we saw a lot of dried grease in there. Hopefully this is nice fresh grease. We've cleaned out the gear channels themselves, and we should be in good condition once we go put this back. So I'm encouraged for $5 I'm going to have a nice working reel here. What I'm doing now is I'm putting that collar on where we have the jack or the transition piece work. All right, so on the bottom here now, this was another problem that I had. The problem is that the bail was sticking. So I hit it earlier with WD-40. This is the piece that operates that little stick that catches the bail, and I'm just going to make sure that we work that in. Most of the time, again, if you don't see a broken piece or a part here, it's usually just you know, the old adage about the squeaky wheel, right? Okay, yeah, there you go, it's working, and I'm just going to release that. And then I'm just going to hit the other side with some WD-40 as well. And again, just work it in. And I suspect maybe some of the sand that got on this side got in there as well. So I'm going to use the WD-40 this time kind of as a little bonding agent to try and work out any additional sand that was in there. Again, I hate sand. It's probably the #1 destroyer of reels. And it's a problem that I have because it'll get on my bench now, and any future work I do I have to be careful about. So what I really have to do is clean down my bench after this reel to make sure that I don't have any residual sand laying around that's going to get in any of my other work. Okay, so I've done that. We're going to go reinstall then the rotor assembly. There's a little clip that goes on here. This kind of holds the spool against the shaft. Just got to find the right alignment, which we just did there, and then there's an inset inside the rotor itself, so we got to line that up. Then we can reinstall the nut. And then we'll be ready to put the shaft back in. Now I keep a lot of wrenches in my toolkit here. The wrenches vary from reel to reel. I go everything from like an 8mm kind of a wrench all the way up this. I'm using a 17, but that's probably the 5/8 on the American side. But at any rate, 17 is working here, so we're going to go ahead just complete the work with that. I'm going to reinstall the shaft. I'm going to put a light coating. I'm going to use my gloved hand for that. Light coating with the blue grease on the shaft. And we can reinstall the shaft into the, oops. And then we're going to put the cross-wind block mechanism onto that shaft. Put the spool shaft into the hole there. It's a little dance here. Eventually we get the dance done. Try it this way, put it onto the shaft first. More than one way to get this done. That's one of the ways to do it. Put it onto the shaft first. Then we're going to align the hole in the shaft so that we can put the screw in. I'm just looking for a centering pin that I normally have around here. There it is. And we'll find out the hole. Line that up again. And patience is the virtue with these, as it usually is. Okay, now that I have that pin in, I'll overlap that. We're going to go back to my parts bin. I'm going to grab that screw for the cross-wind shaft. I'm going to put that back in now. So I generally use a parts bin, parts tray, keep all of my small pieces and parts so that I know where they are when we go to reinstall. It just saves a whole bunch of looking. Right, and then I'm just going to put a little bit more of the lube on the outside there. Going to turn the plate back. I'm going to put those 3 outside screws that belong in the plate assembly here. Kind of reversing the process of taking it off. I guess this reel probably hasn't seen any kind of maintenance in it, probably in 20 years. So whoever had this just broke the pole, put it in the pile somewhere. The reel wasn't working well because the grease had dried up around the gear mechanisms, causing it to perform poorly. And he probably just threw it on a pile one day and said, you know what, I'm never going to use this reel again. Put it out at a tag sale, $5. And with a little bit of knowledge and information, we've taken this a long way. I'm going to go back and do the drags in a moment. I just want to attach this and make sure that everything seems to be working the way it should. There's a little chirp going on in there, I'm noticing. And I'm thinking again that that's sand, so I may have to go back and do a little bit better job attaching the sand. But again, you saw the quality of this reel. It looks like it appears to be stainless steel shaft. Nice collars, brass gearing and bearings. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, so we have a clink and a clank going on there. I just want to get the reel button and see if that doesn't take the play out of the spool. If not, we're going to have to go back and do some work. But yeah, there we go. All right. So whatever it was a piece of sand, no doubt. And now we've got a nice turning, fully functional reel as if it was new. And you know, let's just make sure that the bail sets too. Okay, so there we go. So it was a little bit of sand in there. Apparently it was making this thing clink and clank to begin with. So now we've got a fully functional reel. So this is kind of the purpose of my my videos that I put out there. It's not only just about how I fix the reel, it's also giving you a little bit of knowledge and education on the reel itself. And hoping to encourage you that if you have a reel, sometimes it's a parent's reel or you got it from your grandfather or something, and you want to go ahead and restore that thing, you know, so that it can be used, this is a good way to go do that. So I'm going to work on these drags in the second video. This one's a little stuck and I'm running out of time here, but I do want to encourage you to go ahead and take a chance, especially when it's like $5, right? This is a $5 reel. When it's $5, I call that the cost of tuition. Bring it home, take it apart, see if you can make it work. If you can't, you learn some lessons from it. You learn why the reel failed, and if you can, then you've got a reel that you can put back fishing again, or you can tell stories about, right? So in this case, I got a story to tell. I got a $5 reel that with a little bit of work, we were able to put back together because it was only really about dry grease and poor cosmetics. So with that, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you like it, please indicate that on YouTube. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my channel. I post several times a week, and I pretty much have invited you into my shop to look at all of the reels that I'm working on and hopefully transfer some knowledge to you about how to do this yourself. So with that, I thank you for viewing the video. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.